Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at bringing new life to an old laptop. Now, I've dug out this old Aspire One here. It's a netbook from several years ago at this point, and it was never the fastest thing, even when it first came out. But today, let's see what we can do about that. Alright, so let's start it up here. One thing to note is that the battery is completely gone on this, so it's not going to be of tremendous use in any situation. But you know, if we get it working, maybe it'll be worth getting a new battery for this thing. It takes a long while to load here. First, let's bring up Task Manager here, kind of see what it's doing, just kind of sitting idle. So yeah, even though it shows 2 threads, this is indeed a single core processor. It's just hyper-threaded, so that's why we have the 2 threads there. Alright, so I think it's mostly loaded up, so let's go and start Google Chrome. Let's minimize that, kind of see how that's looking. And this is kind of the main thing I wanted to show you here. The this graph here, I don't know how well it will come across on camera, but as you can see, we're getting a lot of hard faults, which just means essentially it doesn't have enough RAM, enough system memory there, and so it has to write stuff to the hard disk instead. So that's going to be something that will severely slow this down here. It only has 1 gig of RAM, which is not much. It's going to be difficult to deal with that there. So let's go back to Chrome. And yeah, so let's just try and load up a simple web page. Let's go to Wikipedia. This keyboard's not the greatest. Wikipedia.org. Another thing that I'll note is that the wireless card in here is actually it's not even wireless G, it's wireless V, I want to say. So we'll see about replacing that today. But there we go. Okay, so not too bad on Wikipedia. Let's see, what would be a site that has a lot of stuff on it? Let's try YouTube. Alright, so definitely taking a bit longer here. Of course, it doesn't help that we have a big old ad right there, but let's try and try and start a video. Okay, so while this CPU here should have video decoding on there, hardware acceleration I mean, I don't believe it's actually enabled in here. Go to Chrome/GPU there. Yeah, we'll see software only, hardware is unavailable. Although interestingly enough, the encode is enabled, so that's kind of strange. Have to see about doing something about that. So, let's just hit play. Let's see, I think the web page stopped responding. Or maybe just all of Chrome. Let's just do what we were going to do here and see if we can get this to be a little better. Alright, so we're going to begin the disassembly of this now. We'll start by removing the battery. would seem that we have soldered RAM here, but we're going to keep going. We'll see what's on the other side. Alright, so there we go. I don't really want to disconnect these cables here. They're kind of delicate and I don't want to risk damaging them. But, yeah, so it looks like we have one RAM module that we can replace. I'll see if I have something that's larger than what's there. Kind of inconvenient with the hard drive. It's actually mounted to the back of the board, so I can't actually just replace it before pulling out the motherboard, so yeah. I believe this is a 160 gig hard drive here, Western Digital I want to say. Alright then, so this is the CPU here. Yes, right here. The smaller one is the CPU, and this one is probably the chipset. And yeah, I guess I use thermal pads. I'm gonna damage this one though, so we'll see about putting paste on here. It's not always the best to replace the thermal pads with the paste because the pads are a lot thicker than any layer of thermal paste will be. But this one's kind of damaged, and since it's all like flat here, hopefully we'll be able to push it down just a little bit more. So let's do that now. Alright, so one thing I'd like to point out here, look at that, there's not even there's no fins on this heatsink. See, that's the fan there, and there is absolutely no fins whatsoever on this. I mean, I understand it's a low wattage part, but it's not exactly a whole lot of heatsink here. So, yeah. Alright, so here we go. Gonna have to be a little careful with this application of thermal paste. On one hand, you know, we want to have only a thin layer of paste. However, since we are replacing thermal pads here, you know, it's gonna have a bit larger of a gap to fill. So, I'm trying to go somewhere in between. Alright, so this is a half gig stick of RAM, of DDR RAM, I believe. Let's see, there it is, it's in focus. Yeah, 512 megabytes. And so, looking through my box of RAM here, you find that I have a, let's see if it'll focus. Come on. There we go. We do have a 1 gig stick of RAM. So we're going to put this in there, which will give us a gig and a half total, which is a small improvement anyway. So Alright, so I noticed that the bottom of the laptop here is kind of dusty, so I'm going to dust it off here real quick. Oh, I can help it was plugged in. Alright, take two. Now, ideally, I would replace the CMOS battery here, just, you know, while it's out like this, but however, it's not really a standard one, so I don't really have a replacement for it offhand. So yeah, we're just going to let that be for right now. Alright, so here's the original Wi-Fi card here, and this is the one we're going to be replacing it with. Yeah, so we're going to get this thing back together just far enough to start it up, just so that we can make sure that new Wi-Fi card is compatible with this, and as well as to check things like whether or not the thermal paste is going to actually work in there. Or if I'm going to have to figure out something else, and if the RAM is detected. So, yeah. Alright, so here we go. Let's see if it's detected. Well, it just shut off, so don't know what that was about. Try it again. Well, something's up. See, all of our RAM is detected. So, let's just turn this off. Let's plug in the battery. Maybe it has something to do with that. Well, I guess I'll have to get back to you. Let me see what's happening. Alright, so after another off-camera disassembly, I discovered that I had forgotten to plug back in the computer fan, so probably a good thing that it didn't start up there. Maybe look and see what was up. But yeah, no, I just forgot to plug that back in, so here we go for reals this time. So looks like we got the drivers for the network card installed, so that's good. first let's take a look at the RAM. And yes, there it is. It shows as 1.5 GB. So yeah, that's an improvement. Let's open up the resource monitor. We're still seeing some hard faults here, but not nearly as much, I don't think. Let's start up Chrome and see how that does. Yeah, we're definitely still having it happen, but Chrome's definitely seems to have started up faster, so that's a bonus. And let's go to the website. Video playback seems a little smoother. Not quite sure what resolution it's playing at, but it's definitely not HD. Yeah, that's not really liking 1080p too well. Alright, so now that we know it all works, let's shut it down and put the last of the screws in. Alright, so the adhesive on the back 2 feet here are just about done for after being pulled off, so I'm going to replace that with some double-sided tape here, so let's do that. Alright, so there we go. All done with the hardware side of things. Now let's take a look at the software side. Alright, so my plan is to dual boot this between Debian and Windows 10, just as a bit of comparison to kind of see if Debian's going to be a bit more lightweight than Windows. So we'll go ahead and get those installed and we'll get back to you. Alright, so it's been a couple of days now and we now have both Windows and Debian installed. So let's first boot into Windows and see what that's like. So the main thing that I will consider, good for general usage is if it can be used well as just a web browsing device. So as far as that goes, let's just open up Firefox here. So yeah, definitely a bit slow to launch things, but here we go. Let's see. Let's first start out easy. Let's go to let's just first go to Google. Let's go to Wikipedia. Do a Google search. So if we open up Task Manager while it's doing this, you'll see that the CPU is the limiting factor here. There are some other tasks going on in the background here, so that probably has something to do with it. Alright, So here we go, let's go Wikipedia, let's go to, I don't know, just search for something. Yeah, I mean, for, mainly text-based websites, it's actually not too bad. Now if we go to something like, YouTube here, try and load up a video, we'll find that it doesn't quite do so well. Video playback of any kind is not going to be very successful on here. Even at really low resolutions here, it can't do it. Now, while the graphics in here are supposed to support some kind of video acceleration, I can't get any web browsers to really use it, so maybe it might work with a local video player, but at least on the web, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So yeah, you can see a little chunky there. Takes a while even for the thing to load up. You can see it is playing, but it's on HD. Let's bring it down a little bit. Bring it down to 240p and see if that works. Alright, so I don't know if you can tell in video, but it does seem to be dropping a fair amount of frames, even at 240p. Task Manager, yeah. Yeah, let's restart it, try out Debian. Might have a bit better luck since we won't have all of Windows stuff happening in the background there. Alright, so we have Debian loaded up here. Enter the password real quick. Now, usually I like to use KDE Plasma as my desktop, but it was a bit much for this. It was kind of on par with Windows as far as difficulty to run it, but instead I have LXDE set up on here, which is a bit more lightweight and seems to run a bit more quicker, so we're going to be using that. Alright, so there we go. Looks like it's loaded up. So let's start out with Firefox again. Same thing again, let's head to Wikipedia. Alright, now let's look something up. Okay, so there we go. Overall, I would say that, if you're just using it for web browsing, it's about the same between Debian and Windows, at least on this machine here. So, I mean, text-based websites, yeah, it's probably usable for that, but again, if we go to, anything that's a bit, heavier of a website, it's not going to do so well. So again, we'll load up YouTube here. It'll do a little bit better on Debian here again because we don't get like all the Windows stuff happening in the background. So, but yeah, it's still pretty much not usable for watching video, at least on the web anyway. It's doing a little bit better. But it still looks like it's dropping a frame here and there. Not quite as bad though. But even still, it's a little rough there. And you can see the system itself is pretty quick here. So let's just open up a text document here. Look, LibreOffice. Let's see how that's like. Now, LibreOffice is going to be a bit more heavy here than Notepad, so keep that in mind. Alright, well, not too bad. Okay, so you scroll pretty smoothly. Alright, not bad, not bad. Okay, yeah, so I would say that this would probably be usable here for writing documents. Alright, and then one final thing I will say, as far as web browsing goes, if you disable JavaScript, it is actually a fair bit faster. So this here is Conqueror. It's not quite as nice as Firefox, but I do have JavaScript disabled here. So I click the button. No. There it goes. Alright. So again, search for Wikipedia. Yeah, it's just, it loads a lot faster. Although I will say that you do lose some features and stuff that, you know, requires JavaScript to run, but if you can do without it, you know, even on this machine here, it's actually quite, it's not bad. Not bad at all to, you know, do some simple web browsing. It will break a lot of websites, though, is the only thing I will say. Alright, so, in conclusion, we're moderately successful. As far as performance, I would say it's about on par with the original Raspberry Pi. So, I mean, it's definitely not a high-performance device. Although the Raspberry Pi, I will say, does have the advantage of a actually working video decoder. So, it'd be better for, like, watching videos and stuff. But, yeah, basic websites work, and I think that's about the most that we can expect out of this. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.